Good morning and welcome back to my knitting and crochet podcast. I think we're on episode 32. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty positive it's 32. This morning I am having some David's tea. I love my little tea steeper, I guess is what you call it. And this is a older mug from Eat Sleep Knit. It's a yarn store out of Dallas, Georgia. They have a great online yarn store if you're looking for some hand-dyed yarn. And there's a kitty cat there with a little sweater on it. But I kind of consider them my local yarn store. They're about 2 hours from me, but I just love them so much. And the tea that I'm drinking is a white chai chocolate from David's Tea. And this little cute tea tin. This is actually a little older tea, but it's still really good. And I'm drinking on tea because Alabama weather has gotten a little crazy. We were 70 degrees Fahrenheit on Sunday, and then by Monday night it went down to 30, and then Tuesday night it was like 25 degrees. That's a drastic change, and the weather of fall I love because it makes you slow down. It makes the world around us kind of somewhat slow down, and it kind of prepares us for the hustle and bustle of the holidays. And that kind of weather change and shift has got me thinking about my own life and reflecting on things that I do daily and really reevaluate. And this channel has been in a process of that really since January. It's trying to figure out who I am in my mid 40s and who I am as a crafter and a mom and a wife. And I've really enjoyed the process, but it feels like each month I learn a little bit more about myself and what I want this channel to become. So we're going to talk about that today. We're going to talk about not only the things that I've been working on, but we're going to talk about the shift that's happening within me and the shift that I want to see in this channel and in the things that I craft. So grab a project, grab your cup of cozy whatever, and settle in, and we're going to kick it off with what I've been working on. I did finish my Raffi hat, and I had all the intentions to bring it out here and show it to you, and I forgot it in the house. So I'm going to insert some photos and videos here while I talk. I really love how this hat turned out. It's a really good fit on my head, and I love the color of it. I love how it has all the little bit of hints of red and a little bit of hints of yellow, and there's a little bit of brown in there. Like, it really makes me think of a maple leaf in the fall. And we have a couple of maple trees on our property, and I need to plant some more. But they're just so pretty, and they just embody the season of fall to me, from when they go to this lively green and then their color shifts and then the leaves fall and then the whole tree just kind of goes dormant and it just kind of rests and renews itself and it gets ready for its whole new glory of all new leaves in the spring. And I think that's why I loved knitting that hat, because I feel like I'm going through that process right now. I used almost half of the yarn. I didn't even use all the yarn. So for that hat, I used Madeline Tosh Vintage, and this was a one-of-a-kind colorway. A couple of years ago, Madeline Tosh had a holiday sale on some yarn dye lots that kind of went a little array and off of what they were supposed to, and so I got one of those, and this was 200 yards and 115 grams of that Tosh Vintage. This is the yarn cake that I have left. I pulled from the inside, so it's a little hollow. It's not as big as it looks. There is exactly 46 grams left, so I use 54 grams of it, so not even half of the skein for that hat. I did make the adult medium because I have a little bit of a small head. It's so much smaller than my husband's head, but the hat fits perfectly and it comes down perfectly, it covers my ears, and it doesn't feel too big and bulky. Sometimes hats, when they get too big for me, I feel like they push up on the back. This one, it just kind of fits, but I do have some really kind of like crazy hair that kind of does poof it out some, but I think even the medium size would fit a much larger size head. The way that it just has that rib just really gives you a lot of play. And even if I have my hair in like a little clippy thing, I can still kind of pull the hat over it. So I think it was a really great knit, and I'm glad I knit the medium and not the large, because the large I think would just been too big. Although with that rib, again, I think it still would have probably fit a medium head. So if you're wanting to knit that for a gift, you can probably do it the large size, and that way it'll fit the large size head or medium size head, and you'll be good to go, and you'll be covered. That is so good. Okay, so the next thing I was working on is I cast on my blurry cow. Y'all, my Hue Loco yarn finally showed up. It was taking forever. That yarn I had pre-ordered on September the 12th, and it arrived on Friday, November the 7th. So it was out there in the world for a very, very long time. And Hue Loco is a dyer in the United States. It was a pre-order, and it's festival season. I understand that, but I was really starting to worry that it was not going to make it here, because I'm supposed to be knitting this, and it's supposed to be done before the end of November, so I can turn it in along with a Raffi hat and my lone skein shawl as part of the Hue Loco fall knit along cowl that's happening until the end of November, which I still haven't taken photos of that shawl. I need to do that today. That's going to be on my list to do. But this is living in a bag that my friend Deborah got me one year, and I love pumpkin spice everything. I really do. And peppermint everything. I usually have pumpkin spice stuff in September and August, or September and October. And then as soon as it hits November, it's like peppermint season for me. So I'm kind of living my peppermint life right now, and my creamers and my body spray and lotion. But pumpkin spice is my prior life of October. And so this bag has a little pumpkin spice on it, but I thought it still works because it is November. I don't know where she got this bag. I know she'll watch this video, and then she'll tell me, and then I can put it in the show notes. But yeah. So this yarn is part of the Pumpkin Spice and Everything Nice collection from Hue Loco. It's a DK weight yarn, 100% superwash merino, 4-ply, 230 yards per 100 grams. I'm using two colors. So I'm using a maple leaf, and maple leaf I haven't really used yet. Gorgeous orange. Look how pretty. And these same orange tones are in the second color I'm using. So the second color I'm using is also from her Pumpkin Spice and Everything Nice collection. And this is Winding Road. So Winding Road is this. Look how pretty. So huge contrast, but there is blurps of this maple leaf in the Winding Road. And I love this connection. Y'all, I have a thing about yard names. Let me know down below if you do too. I love a good yard name. I love a good yard name if I can relate it to something in my life. And where I live, in Alabama, there's a lot of forest areas. There's a lot of farmland. There's a lot of rural areas. We have some big cities, but there's a lot of space in between the big cities. I'm about 15-20 minutes out from an actual city that's a decent size. And even that is depending on if you get behind a tractor driving down the road. So I love the area that I live in. We are pretty close to the highest point of Alabama, which is Mount Cheaha. And one of my absolute favorite things to do in the fall is to ride up through there. And there's a lot of winding roads, and there's so much trees and leaves. And so the road is just covered with leaves. And as you're driving, the leaves just cascade down around you. And I just thought this would just be a great knit for my area and to represent a part of my life of living in this area. And so when I do pass and when all my hand knits get passed down to someone in my family, then they would have this cowl that I'm knitting that was knit because of an area that I lived in and have that kind of transition. And that's why I'm working on that knitting journal that I was talking about in a previous episode about how I want to document my journey for those after me. So that's the little story behind that yarn. But it's so pretty. So this is winding yarn, winding road, and this is the Hue Loco yarn. Look, can you see it? Yeah. So I started this on Sunday. I think is when I started this. After church on Sunday, I cast this on. And this is what I got so far. We're Wednesday, and I stopped like there's like 4 stitches left. I don't even know what I was doing. I remember knitting last night. No, that was I started 4 stitches. That's right. And I felt myself falling asleep, and I'm like, you know what? No, I'm not gonna go down a road where I have to team back tomorrow. So I just put it up a little bit, but you can see that orange. There is a little bit of a pattern texture going on in here. There is some almost diamond shapes, and I love that because they remind me of the mountains around me, like Mount Cheaha. And even though that's the back side. Oh my goodness, I'm showing you the back side. There we go, you can see it. You can see the texture. And even though I'm not, Alabama does have some mountains. We don't have like mountains. Like some of the states in the United States, if you're not from here, there are like mountains, like some huge Rocky Mountain, and Tennessee has a lot of mountains. We have like we have like medium-sized mountains, but Mount Cheaha is a pretty good, mountain. It's the highest point in our state. But I love that it has these little mountainous little things in the pattern to kind of go with my winding road and my maple leaf for fall. But I'm really enjoying this. I'm really enjoying the yarn too. It's not splitty at all. It definitely is a superwash yarn, but it feels really nice. Like it doesn't feel over superwashed, if that makes any kind of sense. And if you use a lot of superwash yarn, I think you can probably understand what I'm trying to say there. Superwash is a chemical process that is applied to the yarn, and that's what gives it the ability to be washed and not felt as easy, but it also changes the nature and the feel of the yarn, of the fiber. To do this 1 through 16 repeat of the pattern 3 times, and then I start on the stripes. And I think at that point is when we will connect it and make it a cowl, because right now it's just this little front part, but it's going to be an actual cowl with some stripes and then the little border section. But that's why I thought I would do the orange to kind of weight down the bottom and have the lighter on top. But I think it's going to look amazing, and I'm excited for it. I'm just really, really loving this project. So next up on the project list is something that's merry and bright. On my Facebook page, I put up this little graphic, and I was curious how many people were Christmas tree eager, we'll say, of the season. Looking at the results right now, I thought I would share those with you. 7 people did a heart, so 7 people put them up on Thanksgiving weekend. 3 people did the emoji, which means sometime in December. And 2 people did the hug emoji, which is November the 1st. So I thought that was kind of a fun thing. But in doing that also, it kind of made me want to do something Christmassy. And so I knit another tree. And I don't know how many trees I have now, but I knit another one of my little Mary trees. It's so cute. This one kind of came out in just browns, but it's part of this Desert Vista Dye Works color that I got off a D-stash. So this is color Time Out and Take 5, but I'm going to knit another one because I want to use some of that red and stuff. So as far as my little trees, I have a couple of these I've knit up. I actually have two in that color. There's the other one. I just dropped my tree in my hot tea. I cannot make that up. Okay, so I'm gonna hold it up over my tea because it's dripping. Oh, that's so funny. It's fine. I'll take it in and wash it. And then I have a dark blue one. Oh my goodness. Okay, there we go. We're just gonna set that one aside so I can take it in and get the tea out. It makes it kind of smell good. We might just leave it. We might just let it roll with it. It'll be fine. On that side of the shed behind my desk, I had found these little bead garlands at Walmart. And so I want to make some garlands and hang them up in the shed with my trees. And I also have been working on the little stockings. I want to make a garland with those as well. I don't know if I want to get some more of that bead garland. And this is something I may leave out all the time because when I was doing that yarn crawl series and I was going into the different yarn stores and I went into Paper Crane Yarns, seeing all of her cute bunting and garland everywhere and how cozy it made that yarn shop, I was a little bit jealous. Like, I want that. I want to have some cute little garlands and buntings hanging in here and just kind of leave it up. I think that would just be adorable for the yarn shed. And I'm going to have to make it happen. Next thing I was working on is my socks. I've knit a couple rows on my socks, just a couple. I'm going to pick them back up. They're going to be my podcast socks. So that's what I'm going to be knitting on going forward in this episode. Although I just got these out of my bag and I want to show y'all what I realized. Look at all those live stitches that are not on the needle. They're just hanging out. So I'm going to pick those up real fast. And so that way I can knit on them while I talk to you about some changes in the channel and in me and a little bit of reflection. I was able to pick up my stitches, although I have stitches that are kind of split where I just kind of quickly pick them up. But I think that's very fitting for what we're about to talk about. So in this part, I would like to talk to you about things that are shifting in within me and things that are going to be shifting within this channel. So if you're not interested in that, I understand. I hope you have a great week. That is why I did the what I've been working on prior to this segment, and after this segment I'm going to be talking about what I'm going to be working on next as well as what's happening next in the channel. But I'm going to put timestamps down below so you can skip to that part if you want to, or you can just continue knitting or crocheting as I talk about some changes that are happening in me and happening within the channel. So every year, whether we want to admit it or not, or whether we want to welcome it or not, there are changes happening all around us and in our life, in our knitting and crochet. And it's things that we have to adapt to, or we have to change the way we do things to adapt to them or to make it through them. And I think it's pretty ironic that my stitches fell because that was an interruption that I'm having to deal with. But it's one that, because of my past and because of my age, I've dealt with that before. And I just used the word live stitches, and I realized as soon as I said that if you're watching this from another country, that may not be something that is used where you are. So let me give you a meaning for that. Live stitches in knitting is stitches that are not bound off. So in knitting, we have all of our stitches that we're working, the working stitches on your needle. Those are your live stitches. And the ones that are no longer attached to your needle, once you bind off a project, they're no longer, they're just bound off stitches. But when someone talks about your live stitches, like if they're telling you how to count your rows, and just like you do in crochet, you count the ones on your needle as a row also. You count your live stitches. So that is that, in case you're wondering, if you're not used to knitting, what I was referring to. Because I didn't realize when I said that might not be part of your yarn vocabulary that you're used to. But in the fall and winter, days get shorter and everything just seems quieter. I don't know about y'all, but it is really getting darker here a lot earlier, and it just kind of makes me want to cuddle up in a blanket more and just sit and knit. I've spent a lot of time knitting lately, and I've loved every minute of it. Or even researching yarn and patterns, and even preparing for this podcast. And I feel that same kind of preparation within me. This year has been a doozy, like I spoke of. It's been full of family issues and loss of family, loss of pets. So it's just been a really hard time. But I love that life has a way of using those times to allow us to grow and to allow us to see areas in our life that we need to change or that we need to grow into. And just the same way that life has the tendency and the weather has a tendency to slow us down in that aspect, it can also slow us down in our creativity and show us things that we need to be more creative in and things that maybe we just need to let go. Slowing down isn't always a bad thing. Sometimes it opens a door for change, for growth, for a new direction, and that's kind of where I've been. I've had this tug on my heart for almost nostalgia of things of the past. And those things have really been at the forethought of my mind. I've really been thinking about just how our world has shifted so much. We went from a time of when things mattered, when getting together with your family mattered, when we did things with purpose and when we did things with intent. And that same philosophy has really come out in what I've been reading in my quiet time in the Bible and the reflections I've been having from that. So this whole last couple of weeks has just been this, and really more than that, because you'll kind of, if you look back at my channel, some of my videos, you notice that kind of after the passing of my mother-in-law is when all this stuff kind of started really turning within me. When I started that cozy craft declutter challenge of letting go of things, this whole longing for slower times, simplicity has really pulled at my heart. And that's kind of where I want my channel to grow. This channel used to carry those same feelings and themes naturally. It used to be something that, I don't know, it just felt more nostalgic and slower and not so rushed. This channel has had its own journey of its own. If you are new, hi again. My name is Kim. Welcome. I'm going to give you a little bit of back history real fast, and if you've been here for a while, you've probably heard this, and this just might be like a little refresher. But my original YouTube account was created in 2007, and on that I would put videos about homeschool, preschool, and just home life, simple living, kind of like homesteading kind of stuff. Because we've homeschooled for about 10 years now, 11 years? I don't even know. You lose count. And I've always been someone who, there's just a different lifestyle in the country than I think than people who live in the city have. I've always grown up as a country girl. So I've always grown up on a farmland and having a big garden and canning those vegetables and cooking from things from our garden and doing DIY things and repurposing things. So that's part of who I am, and that's kind of how this channel started out. And then in 2013, I started putting yarn related videos up because my mother-in-law had had a car wreck, and her head went through the airbag and contacted the steering wheel, and it said on early onset Alzheimer's, and her journey began pretty rapidly. And so I was looking at ways to help her cope with that and deal with the really hard days I could. So I read a article put out by the Mayo Clinic. I think it went out in 2012 or 2013, and it talked about knitting and crochet and how they're muscle memory crafts, and how crafts like them and others like them help slow down your brain's degenerative process. So I was like, okay, well, my mom, who I call my mom my mother-in-law, grew up in Austria during World War II, and knitting and crochet was part of her. It wasn't a hobby to them. It's a culture. It's a way of life. During World War II, they literally knit and crocheted their socks and their garments because they couldn't afford to buy anything. They lived in a 1-bedroom apartment where there was a bed, and it was like a bed and like a little table, she said, and there was just like another little kind of open walkway, and then you had the kitchen area, and then just a little bathroom. And she grew up in there with her mom, her sister, and their cat named Schnurly. And so knitting and crochet was a huge part of her life. Walking back and forth to school in literally the snow, and walking through Vienna and seeing her family, and even spent some time in Italy. And so I got into that knitting and crochet to help her get back into it, because I knew she knew how to do it, but I never seen her knit or crochet. And I've been married to her son since 06. So once I got back into it, she did get back into it. And it just really helps her slow down, and it helps her calm. And it's done the same thing for me over the years. And so when I first started putting out videos, I put out videos how I wanted to share my journey with you, the viewer, and how I wanted to show you glimpses of my life and how I live my life. I loved it. I really did. I loved everything about it. I would sit down sometimes, like I'm doing this podcast, and talk to you and show you what I was working on, which, by the way, these are my socks. This yarn is, I forgot to tell you, Paca Pets. It is a 20% superfine alpaca, 65% superwash wool, and 15% nylon, and it is from the Alpaca Yarn Company, and it's mixed berries. But then at some point there was a shift, and I didn't knit or crochet as much. I've always knitted and crocheted since I started. I never stopped completely. I've always knitted and crocheted something. But when I first started, we're talking like I was putting out close to 10,000 yards a year in knitting and crochet. I was like a little powerhouse knitter and crocheter. And then a shift happened, and it had to do with some stuff online, and there was just a big shift in community, in the knitting and crochet community. And I talked about it in that cringe video I did that went insanely popular. Thank you so much for that. Like, I've enjoyed reading all the comments, and I never thought that video would go out to so many people like crazy. But I took a little slowdown from knitting and crochet, and I took a little slowdown on my channel. And then around COVID time, I picked up my needles again. And because everyone else was picking up their needles again, and a sense of community had blossomed. But there was definitely a sense of community once again in the crafting yarn world. And I was here for it. And so I watched somebody do a live on YouTube, and I'm like, I want to do a live on my channel. That's so much fun to talk to your viewers in like real time. And I did. And I had a couple of channels that were always chatting with me in the comments. And so I recognized their avatar, and, I had this live, and I was going to invite people to come up and show what they were working on. So I used StreamYard for the first time, and in the little bottom part, there is like people who want to click on the link to join your live, and they're down there, and you just click on them, and then they're in the live with you. And I saw the avatar that I knew, and I saw the channel name that I knew. I did not know it was a copycat channel. I didn't pay attention. I thought like it was just their avatar that showed down below. I didn't know you should see their face. So when I clicked on this person, they popped in my live, and they threw up some graphic photos and spammed my live. And then they left the live. I was mortified. I ended the live and immediately and took them off the thing and apologized. And they turned around and reported me to YouTube. And then at the same time, I'm writing YouTube and messaging them. I'm messaging and writing StreamYard about like what just happened, because I was mortified and couldn't get any response from YouTube. Got a response from StreamYard. Went to sleep. The next morning I woke up with an email saying your channel had been deleted. I was just like, bro. So I fought and fought, and I appealed, and I emailed, and I shed a couple little tears, not gonna lie, because on that channel I had videos of my kids that I did not have backed up anywhere else. And I had them private, and I would share them with family members. And it had a video of our cat Oliver that I can't find anymore, and I wanted those videos. And I was devastated. But I got nothing back from it. So I did the only thing that I knew to do and what I was raised to do, and that was to get up and start over. And so I did. I don't quit. I never quit. I think that is the number one thing my parents instilled to me was don't quit and finish the race. So this current channel began March of 2022, March the 31st. So 3 years now, we have been going strong, and I've loved every minute of it. But then this current channel was also deleted because someone went in and reported one of my videos saying that it was violation of YouTube. And so this channel was taken down for 24 hours. And I have a leg cramp. I'm so sorry. 45, man, you get these crazy leg cramps. So again, I was left trying to appeal and get somebody, and I finally was able to tag YouTube on Twitter, X, whatever it's called now, and they actually responded to me, and they messaged me, and they were like, hey, what's up? And I told them, and they're like, we're going to look into this for you. And I'm like, thank you so much. And then I get this message from them, and it says, hey, your channel has no violations. We're going to reinstall it. And by the way, we saw you had a previous channel that had been deleted. We're bringing that back too. And I was just like crying because I got all those videos back, and all that stuff had been moved to private now, and I downloaded them, and they're on several hard drives. And it's not a big deal, it's videos. I still have all those memories, but it was stuff that I cherished. And I'm just very sentimental when it comes to things like that. And it was just a blessing. It was such a blessing that YouTube person decided to see my tag, respond to me, and then go all through that process, even to look at my prior channel. But even though it was such a blessing, it still kind of left like a little bit sadness on my heart. And it made me question, like, why am I pouring so much time and effort into something that is so fleeting and that can be taken away just like that? And if you are a Christian, or if you read the Bible or read part of the Bible, you would know that in the book of Ecclesiastes, it talks about that, how life is just this fleeting breeze. It's here and it blows through and it's gone. And you have to find a place to live within that. And that there's nothing new. It's just part of life. And so it's all about progression. And I'm someone who really struggles sitting down and talking to people. Like, I've gotten better at talking to the 3 little circles on the back of my phone, but it's still really weird and it's still awkward to me and it wears me out. And even though going through all that stuff with my channel drained me, I still had a desire to create. And I could have just left it all and moved on. But I kept coming back, and I keep coming back because creativity is really important to me. I am a daughter of the most creative of them all. And I think when I am creative and when I talk about my creativity, it's a way of worship and praise to Him because He has given me these abilities and this desire to create and this desire to love color and to love things like yarn and how it's made and desire to learn about it, this process, and the animals that we get the fiber from and the plants that we get the fiber from, all of His creation. And so it's just this beautiful little circle, and it keeps pulling me and it keeps tugging at me over and over and over. I love talking about yarn. I love talking about the creative process and the abilities we have to make something out of string. It is mind-blowing to me. And no matter what, that will never leave me. I honestly think that our creativity is woven in our journey and that every one of our stitches holds our memories and they hold our happiness and they hold our sadness of whatever we're going through during that time of creating that project. They are valleys and mountaintops side by side, and we can see them in the things that we make and in the things that we share. My story is not special at all, and I think it could be familiar though to some. A lot of you have some of the same kind of pieces in your story. You may be caregivers, mothers, wives, makers, believers, or just people who are also just trying to navigate this crazy thing that we call life. And as a Christian, I fail daily. I am not a perfect Christian. There is no perfect Christian. But I fail and then I learn. I make mistakes. I drop stitches, but I learn. I don't let those stop me. I let them pause me. I reflect on them and then I move forward. I try again and I try again and I try again. And I think maybe about me opening about my struggles and my sometimes mundane life may help someone else who's going through the same struggles or dealing with the same mundane life or the same loss of creativity. And so that is why I continue to make videos, and that is why I continue to pour out into this channel, because I want you to feel that you're not alone. And as I talked about earlier, when we used to all gather as a family and we used to all gather and have these occasions where we would just love on each other and pour out to each other, it doesn't happen anymore. And our younger generation, and I can say that now because I'm almost 50, they don't know what that's like. And it breaks my heart that you do not know what that's like if you're watching this and you're someone who grew up with a family who didn't have family gatherings. Or if you're someone who's older than me and maybe you don't have family anymore to have any kind of gatherings, you're not alone. I am here, your knitting and crochet friend. I want to be that for you. I want to be somewhere where you can sit down, grab something cozy to drink, grab a cozy project, and just have it playing in the background, knowing that I am thinking of you and that I am praying of you as you're listening to me talk. We're never alone. There's always people out there who are going through the same kind of things that we are. I would not classify myself as a real creator. Although I've been doing this for quite some time, I haven't, in the past, I was only putting out maybe one video every 6 or 7 months prior to this channel. But I still have felt the squeeze of today's time on my channel and the squeeze of YouTube, the squeeze of comparison and trying to keep it moving, processing videos and wondering if I'm doing it right, if I'm doing it enough, if I'm putting out too much videos, if I'm rambling too much, if what I'm making is not interesting to the viewer. And I can't imagine what bigger channels have to feel like putting all this stuff out, because even though I'm a smaller channel, channels that have 100,000 subscribers, 1 million subscribers, they still deal with the same things that we do. They still deal with the same pressures of comparison and trying to stay relevant. It's just about finding my people who enjoy the things that I do and who want to have these conversations and who just want to have a friend, you know? That's who I'm out there looking for. And some other channels, they have been able to find balance between their families and their channels. And some, like myself, may feel very stretched and thin. And that's how I was feeling around the first of the year and the end of last year when Mama was her sickest. I felt really stretched thin, trying to produce content, trying to be a caretaker, trying to be a homeschool mom, trying to be a wife, trying to be a Christian youth leader. I was just being pulled everywhere. And that slow simplicity of life was escaping me, and it was fleeting. And I was reaching for it and grasping for it whenever I could. I think many people have just gotten exhausted. I know I was exhausted. And the comments that are given to people sometimes can just exhaust you more. I have seen some horrible comments. I have gotten some really crazy, cringy comments. And I probably deal with those differently than some people. Matthew 5:44 says, "Love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you." And when I get those kind of comments, that is what I do. I think we all need prayers, whether we want them or not. And I think people who have that hate and that negativity in their life need prayers more than any of us. So when I get those kind of comments, I stop what I'm doing and I pray for those people. And I pray that whatever they're going through, that it is softened in their heart and that there's peace within them. And I move on because I don't want to hold on to their hate. I don't want to hold on to those feelings that they have. I don't have to. I don't have to carry that with me. That can stop with me, and that's what it does. I do think we all need more kindness to others and ourselves, and that is what I've really been trying to focus on since Mama's passing. Is grace to myself, because a lot of my life has changed. I've lost some weight and then I've gained it back in the last couple of, year, sitting and being so, what's the word I'm looking for? I become very static and in many aspects of my life. And slowly I'm trying to break out of that. I'm trying to free myself from that. And you may have noticed that our life plays a huge part of our journey, of our crafting journey. Again, we carry all those emotions in every stitch that we make. And just like the winter slows down the world and nature and bugs, it can slow us down too. And we can take that time to pause and to reflect and to grow. My joy has never left ever since from the first video I've ever put out till this video. It's just shifted over the years into different things, different seasons of change. And in this last year is definitely shifted to something more intentional. And I have really enjoyed that. Then right after Mamaw passed, I started putting out videos that I have been jotting down. I have a notebook that I have a bunch of video ideas written down, and I even have where I've journaled out what I want to talk about in them. And you started seeing those. You started seeing the cozy crafty clutter challenge. You started seeing about the cringeworthy. And those things I want to incorporate in my video library. More conversations that are about our journey and about our growth and how our crafts reflect to that. I think that's something that I want my channel to kind of shift towards in this season of life. Change means growth, change means life, and change is God's way of making space for something new. And I think that's what's happening here in my channel and in my space. That is where I am. A season of quieting the noise and a season of coming back to the heart of this channel, because that's how it started out. It started out with just a passion, a desire of yarn, of community, not trying to feed the algorithm, not trying to stay relevant. And for a while, I admit, last year and when I very first started this channel in 2022, I was doing that. I was thinking and so worried about how many videos I was putting out and if my content was going to be liked, and the whole stress of it all. It didn't take my joy, but it did stifle it. And I don't want my joy to be stifled over a stupid algorithm that's not even a real person. I don't understand why I even allowed myself to get to that point. But I say no more. And I'm not saying I'm going to become more authentic, because I'm authentic. I'm who I am, and I'm who I am through God and Christ, and who I'm striving to be every day, better and better, and more like Him, more loving, more caring, more compassionate, more forgiving. And I just want to be more raw, though. I want to be more open about my emotions, because I do tend to be someone who shields my emotions. I keep people kind of at arm's length in the past, because I don't have to share my emotions that way. I've put up walls not to get close to people. But as I've aged, I have grown from that. I realize that those relationships are very, very important. These connections of life, even through people, through the camera, through string that we wove in our lives, people that we've met, that we've over a knit along or crochet along, those people are now woven part of our journey, and we need to stay connected to them. We need to stay part of that. If you have a local knitting and crochet group, I highly encourage you to go. I encourage you to go. Make those connections if you can, and stay bonded with those people. We need human connection again. Our world has become so distant from human connection. The phone is this great tool, but at the same time, it's destroying the heart of the human. It's taking us away from our family gatherings. It's taking away from physical contact of people. And it's made us think that everyone is out to get us and that we have to compare ourselves to everyone, but we don't. That's not life. That's a facade that is trying to sell us, but it's not life. At the same time, I've also been very guarded in my faith, and that's something that I'm hoping you notice I'm no longer doing. I've always been afraid that I would offend somebody, or I would be labeled in a stereotype of that Christian did this or misunderstood. But I realize in doing that, I'm missing what I'm called to do, and that is show God's love. And so I'm not going to shove religion down your throat. That is not my job. That is not what Jesus wants me to do. Mark 12:29 through 31 says, it reminds us to love God, love our neighbor, show gentleness, and to show compassion. And in Acts 1:8, it reminds me that sharing my faith is part of my calling. So I have to be obedient to that. We're all human. We're all deserving of love and respect. And we're all walking through these seasonal changes of life, of joys and heartbreaks. While the world is screaming everything about how we're not enough of this and how we don't have enough of that, God's trying to remind us that we are, and that you are enough, that He has provided enough if you have faith. And so that's what I'm standing in the crossroads of. I'm trying to move more into that shift in that season of my life. And again, I'm not going to be shoving religion down your throat. It's not what I'm called to do. But you will notice slight changes on this channel. There may be a name tweak, which I'll always be at Yarning for a Smile everywhere because that's what I've been since 2013. But the title of my channel is going to change slightly. And with YouTube's new integration of putting our actual handles in chats, it'll always show the at Yarning for a Smile in chats and comments. But when you search for my channel, there's just going to be a slight channel name. And that's kind of already taken place. Currently, my channel is called, and I use the word currently, so I don't even know what it's called. I'll have to look it up. I changed it yesterday. Yarny's Cozy Cabin Knitting and Crochet. But I don't know if it's going to stay that. I think it's going to stay some kind of aspect of that. But it's just a shoe that I'm trying on, and I have to see if it's comfortable and if it's going to be something that I continue to wear. But it may change slightly in the future. More blog links because writing does bring me joy. It brings me peace and I find it very therapeutic. And I've already started doing that on my blogger site, and I've been upgrading my blogger website, and that's where I've been posting because that is my original blog that I had all the way back since 2013. So I'm trying to go back, and now I can edit those posts and make them more reader friendly because I realized when I first did it, I had no idea what I was doing. And there's a lot of typos. So I'm trying to go back and kind of polish those a little bit, but not changing anything because I'm still me. I just want to make it a little bit more cleaner and not as chaotic. We'll go with that. You will notice more faith woven into my videos. Again, not in a pushy or heavy way, but in a way of being lived, because I do live an active faith. I am very active in my church. I am very active with our church's youth group, and we're very active. We do a lot of the stuff with the college age kids. We do all the small kid events. We are very active in our faith. And I want that to be more raw and real here. I want to integrate that into this space. And because my faith shapes how I craft and how I cope and how I find joy and how I stay steady when life gets hard and how it gets me through the good bits and the bad bits and the hard bits and all the bits. But I have felt a conviction to share more, and I have to be obedient to that. So you're also going to notice more stash diving to come in 2026 because we are going on a year of no buy. I'm actually in a month of no buy right now. I've only bought one thing since November the 1st, and that was a tube of super glue so I can make some more stitch markers. They keep losing stitch markers. I don't know if I'm dropping them at night or in my chair and the chair may be eating them. I've been meaning to like take apart the little back part of my chair and see if they're just kind of like accumulating back there. But I have a bunch of stitch marker making supplies, and so I'm going to utilize that. But I needed super glue because my kids have been into making Warhammer things, and they have taken my super glue and they have let it dry out. And then they've got their own personal super glue, and mommy's not allowed to use their super glue, but they can use mine. So I had to give me some new super glue. But I'm really going to focus on using what I have and not buying. I am going to give myself a couple of stipulations, though, so to speak. And that is, I'm going to allow myself to buy something from the Babs yarn on Christmas Day. It's a tradition that I've started in 2014 that every year since 2014, I get up, help Santa decorate the area for Christmas, and then I go online and I order me a Christmas yarn or two. It's going to have to be one, though. I'm going to have to cut it down to like one or two and not more, because it used to be more. It used to be like 5 or 6, but I'm just going to count to one. I would like to maybe try to, but I want to do that still because I've enjoyed that. That's just something that my husband and I were sitting at before the sunrise. We're drinking our coffee. Our kids are still asleep. And he sits there with me and, I pick out yarn, I show him the color. It's just something I've always done. It's a tradition. Again, it's that connection, that human connection that he's been a part of. And I want to continue that. The only other time I may ever buy yarn is this. I'm in a project and I realize that I have to order some more yarn to finish the project. I'm usually pretty good about getting yarn enough to complete a project and really paying attention to my yardage, but crazy things can happen, people. I'm not perfect, again. Or if there's something like I just really, really want to make and I have absolutely nothing in my stash that would possibly work for it, I may allow myself to purchase yarn then. Those are going to be it. That's it. No more buying for me. I'm not saying I'm not going to buy any like needles or notions though, because I do enjoy supporting other stitch marker makers, but that's only going to be dependent if I have money, which right now there's no money. And I do need a couple new DPNs because I don't know where, like, I've lost some of them. I don't understand where they've gone. I've looked through bags, and that's a whole nother thing. We're going to be going through some project bags. We're on the bag tree, and I'm going to have to sit down and come to terms with my whips that are not even put on Ravelry yet, because there's a lot more than what's on my Ravelry. I just have not want to own up to them, but we're going to have to do that. So you're going to see that coming, and then we're going to talk about ways how to deal with your whips and how to get them off your hooks and needles so you can have a bunch of new things. And we're going to talk about how to organize your whips, and we're going to talk about fun ways, how to work on your whips. And we're going to be talking about, let me look at my notes, because we're going to see more challenges in the new year. I want to do some more like community challenges because I think those are fun. And we're going to make a few make-alongs. And I don't know if you remember, but a while back I talked about that Christmas skirt. We're going to work on that together. We're going to do one panel a month starting in January, and more details to come on that. And then by Christmas of next year, we're going to have a Christmas tree skirt that we crocheted together as a community. I want to focus on community. I want to focus on connection and the nostalgic things of the past, of coming together, traditions, and building bonds that matter, building friendships that matter, and being raw and authentic with ourselves and our feelings. I'm going to try my best to commit to one video a week. And my goal is to get new videos out to you every single Friday. There may be some weeks that I'm just like pumped up and I need to get one more video out to you, and that might be a little boom boom. Boom boom. Good. And then I'm still going to try to do my Make It Monday post of free patterns, but that may shift some. I don't know. Mondays are always kind of crazy here. So it's kind of been a hard thing to get those out sometimes. My father-in-law tends to always get hurt on the weekends, and so I'm always like in the ER with him for various reasons. I can't even tell you how many times I spent with that man in the ER in the past year and a half on the weekends. So I don't know if it's going to continue to be a Monday thing or if I'm going to make videos about those. I'm still going to get free patterns out to you. And whenever I make videos and whenever I talk about patterns, I always link that stuff in the show notes for you. And if I ever forget to do that, you can, make a comment and I will put that in the show notes, and then I'll link it in that comment to you if I can. But if I already have in the show notes, I'm just going to tell you to check out the show notes because I do get a lot of comments, and it makes it a little bit easier. So also with what's coming besides all of that stuff, I want to talk about personal projects besides just that tree skirt. I have some interesting stuff headed this way. I've been having conversations over the week with a certain yarn company, and I don't want to dive into that too much yet. But we're going to be looking at some of their yarns. So I'm very excited about that and getting that out to you because I'm very interested in some of the yarns that they've had. And I've used their yarns before, but it's been quite some time. I really want to focus on my queue. My Ravelry queue has gone insane. It is insane. If you're new here, I do have a whole playlist, which I will link it up above and down below in the video description, of how to use Ravelry or how to use Ravelry in a way to benefit your knitting and crochet, and how to organize your patterns and what you want to make. And the queue option is what is intended for queuing up the patterns that you want to make. So any pattern that you see on Ravelry you want to make, I hit add it to my queue, and it just puts it in order that's searchable of all the things you want to make. So I've done this since day one. There's patterns that are on there that I have queued since 2013. And my queue is now at 926 things. A lot of these things I already own the patterns for because over the years I see them and I'm like, I'm definitely going to make that. And I've bought the pattern or I bought the book, and I may even have yarn. There's a whole bookcase right there that has a couple of shelves that has yarn that is already dedicated to projects that are in my queue. We're going to do those this year. We're going to work on them starting this year. I'm not going to say we're going to do them all this year because that would be insane. And that would also be not realistic. And I'm all about realistic goals. But we're going to make a bunch of fun things and we're going to work on fun things together. And so I'm trying to figure out a way to invite you to do that with me. So what I may do is I may put up a community post like, hey, this is what I'm working on this week. Here's the pattern if you want to join in. And then if you send me your completed project of that, then I will put that in my video when I talk about it. And as I talk about it, because I'm not going to say I'm going to start something and get it done in a week. That would be, that's not realistic for me. But if you want to work on it alongside of me and then send me your project, and then I will insert that when I talk about the project. I think that could be fun and that can help build that whole community aspect. Also, you can always share what you're working on my community tab. Please use that. Thank you to Tammy for sharing her beautiful fall foliage that she has in her area. If you haven't seen that, go check that out. I love that she shared that. It made my heart smile. And in saying that, what I'm going to be working on this week is I'm definitely going to be working on that blurry cow for the Hoey Locatelli knit along. My socks are going to be worked on. I'm on the foot, so I just got to keep going round and round. So they're going to become really my travel knitting. I'm trying to work on a couple more of these little Christmas trees. And then there was a lady in my area who, I don't even know how her post came up in my way. I'm in a couple of the what's happening in so-and-so county groups. I'm sure your area has those too. I think Facebook has become just very much like every area has one of those on Facebook everywhere. And so I'm in a couple of those for our area. And I'm not on Facebook a lot, but I was just kind of on there scrolling, and this post popped up, and there was this lady, and I realized it was a local teacher at one of our local schools, and she had donated some things, and somehow when they donated them, there was a box next to it that had all of her mother's ornaments and Christmas stuff in it. And from what I understand, her mother passed, and it got donated to the local thrift store. And she realized that. And so she went in and she tried to get an associate to go look for it, and they wouldn't do it or they couldn't do it. And she was just putting out this call on Facebook to please keep an eye out for her stuff, that she would buy it back from whoever bought it. She just wants to have her mom's stuff. And I've been going through this whole season of nostalgia, of that human connection, of those human ties. And I saw that, and it just like y'all, it got me. It got me so hard. And my heart just broke for this lady because I have so many ornaments that were from my grandmother. And I even have some of my mother's ornaments, and my mother's still alive, and my dad is too. And I'm very grateful for that. And I have some of Mama's ornaments that she has given me over the years. And things like that, and my grandmother, who I love, who was the crafter, things like that matter to me. I know they're not important, they're just things, but they're attachments to memories, and they're physical objects that we can touch and that we can feel, and that those memories just flow through us and rush back to us. And it just broke my heart. So I put a post up, and I even tagged the thrift store, and they commented that they had been in contact with her, and they are going to try to help her find her stuff. But some of that stuff can already be on the floor. And unfortunately, she had mentioned that some of her stuff was personalized, and a lot of thrift stores, when they get personalized merchandise, they trash it. And that broke me there, thinking like her mom had quilted this tree skirt and sewn some ornaments and stuff, and like they could be throwing that away. I don't know this lady. I've never met this lady. I just looked and saw that she was a local teacher, and I wanted to do something for her. So I reached out to her, and I was like, hey, you don't know me. I'm not your mom, but I am a mom, and I would love to knit you an ornament and maybe make you a couple little ornaments so you can have those from a mom for your tree. And she was open to the idea, which made me very happy. So I'm going to be making the star, no, not the star. I'm going to be making this sun burst star ornament. And this is a paid for pattern. It is an Australian pattern, but it's $4.10 in the US. And so I'm going to be making that. And I'm going to put that link down below. And if you want to join me making that, you can. And then I'm also going to be making her and myself a merry village. Now, this is a drops pattern, and it is completely free. It is so stinking cute, but it'll be a very easy, quick knit. And so I'm going to share that link with you as well in case you would like to join me on those. So those are some of the things I'm working on this week. And if you would like to join me and get me those photos, I will show them when I talk about and show mine. So maybe right now, after watching this, you're sitting there thinking like, I am in a season of change too. Maybe you're in emotional or creative, or just life is shifting all around you, and you feel also, hey, I need to grab a hold of that simplistic life, the simplicity of slowing down and finding peace. And I hope this new season brings that for you. I hope this journey that we're about to embark on together provides that for you. I hope it provides that steady, constant knowing that there's someone rooting for you, that is here to support you, and that loves you, and that will pray for you. And I hope that you choose to walk with me through these next chapters of this channel, and that you continue to hang out with me by making sure you're subscribed to the channel and hitting that little bell notification so that when I do put out a new video, YouTube actually puts it in front of you. And if you're watching on your mobile or iPad, I just learned this the other day. You can double tap the screen and it puts, or tap the screen and it puts that thumbs up on that video. I didn't even know that. I thought you had to like leave and go down and find the thing. You don't. You just tap the screen and like it gives it a thumbs up. But I hope that this chapter of simplicity, this chapter of sustainability and joy helps you through your seasonal change, through your life change that you're going through, and through your creativity change that you may be experiencing or that you want to experience. A season of gratitude and thankfulness, which is something that I always try to focus on in November. Thank you so much for being here today. Thank you so much to hanging out with me as I've fixed and grew and learned of my error in my sock. Thank you so much for sticking out through every change of my channel. I thank you for sticking with me through all the times and for believing in the heart and the reason behind this space, even though I couldn't see it, and even when I somewhat lost it and I was getting caught up in what YouTube wants me to talk about and what YouTube wants me to share. Thank you for sticking around for that and helping me find where it's more about what my heart needs to share with you, because maybe it's what your heart needs to hear. I hope you have a great weekend. Hope you stay warm and toasty. Let me know down below what you're working on and if you've had any lessons from your knitting or crochet this week. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.